Finally got that working. Just gotta double check the spark plugs here. All right. So, I'm gonna tell you the stories you haven't heard. Ooh. Gotta just push it down. This is big. I've got the chills. Oh, man. I don't know if I can do it. All right. A lot of spirits in this room tonight. Vanilla pudding, vanilla pudding, vanilla pudding. Okay. All right. Oh, how are we doing? We had an hour yet here. All right. All right. Ghost. Oh, man. Ooh, it's about to get serious. So, I guess I'll start. My first story. The man with 7 arms. So, there was a man, and they called him the man with 7 arms. The circus had just blown into town. And, well, let's say a few kids were interested. And they said, "Mom, can I have some money for me and my friends for admission to the carnival?" "Oh, you're talking about that carnival?" "Yes, Mom." So, Lucy and her 2 friends, Quad and Trash Can, each had $5 for admission to see the 7-armed man in the freak show. And I said, oh my God, because I wanted to go. So then I said, "Hey," and then she gave me $5. And so we all 4 of us, I chaperone, went to the carnival, the circus carnival. First, I said, they've got this little event going on. There's this tent. It's about yay high. If you go into this tent, you're going to see some things, the likes of which you haven't never seen in your likes, and which haven't been seen in all the world's wonders of the 7 seas of the world. So then Lucy goes, "Trash Can?" And he says, "What?" And at that point, I was confused. So I took a drink, and then I said, come on, let's go get a corn dog. And so we got a corn dog. And next was the haunted house roller coaster. Now, I like roller coasters, but this one looked pretty spooky. And I'll even say maybe it was a little terrifying. But for one reason. The ghost wasn't a ghost. And I said, maybe I'm not at the carnival. But then I thought about it. And then it made sense. So we climbed onto the train. It was one of those floor seaters. So you'd sit on the floor and they'd take the bar and it'd go over your head. And you'd sit like this. And the bar's right here. So as long as you don't sit up too fast, you won't hit your head on the bar. So it was a safety hazard. But nobody cared. So we proceeded down the track. And it got dark. Ooh. And the first thing I saw when I entered was Trash Can's expression, which at this time was particularly tame, like a feral horse. And I said, Trash Can. So then after that, we continued down the course into the dark, and all I could see was a spark. And I thought, oh my God, electrical hazard. But that couldn't have been right. There was just, the level of accuracy wasn't within the precision of the mathematical solution. The physics, it didn't add up. So I said one direction, and that poster's right on the wall. And I said, no, I'm not going back to that. You can't make me. And lo and behold, we got halfway down that track, and then we looked back, and I didn't see anything. I didn't see this 7-armed man. But Lucy said, well, Brendan, the 7-armed man, he's not on the roller coaster ride. They got him in the tent. They got him in the tent out back. He's watering down the elephants. That's how they made that book, Water for Elephants. Anyway. Which, by the way, there wasn't enough water for the elephants. I'd say measure a volume liquid meter into an equation and bottle that up. Put a cork in it. Screw it. So, after we got out of there, I was disappointed. I actually thought it was the Tunnel of Love, and I don't know why I thought that. So, we walked, what seemed for like miles, across a grassy escapade, and I said, aren't we supposed to be seeing the 7-man? And Trashcan said, we like to see the 7-man tent. And so we did. That's what we did. Hand to God. As we walked through this tent, I got all these things going through my mind, and I'm wondering to myself, is there even really, I mean, in my thought, I'm lost right now. 7-man arms with an armed man with 7. 7. 7. Ding, ding, ding. Checkpot. Alright. So then I said, yeah, there could be a ghost in here. There could be a ghost in one of his arms. He's got 7 of them. So basically what ended up happening was we went into this tent, and it wasn't even a tent, it was a mere fun house. So you got a clown on the left, you got a clown on the right, you pass through the middle, dragons breathing fire right in your face, singeing the hairs right off your eyebrows. Right off the beard brows. I mean, my beard's in flames, okay, at this point. Hawks flying over my head. Trash got picked up by a crow. The crows carried him off. He was gone. He was out of here. Okay, so me and Lucy, and I think there was one other person. She might have gotten clown napped, but at this point, me and Lucy were like, okay, so we must be approaching the one-armed man. And I said, wait a second, I thought he had 7 arms. And Lucy said, why are you talking to yourself? And I said, I don't know. I'm lonely. No. So then I broke the mirror, because I got emotional. Well, after I broke that mirror, you'll never guess what was behind that mirror. There was another mirror, and I broke that mirror. And behind that mirror, there was another mirror, and I broke that mirror. And behind that mirror was a door. And I opened that door, and there was another mirror, and I broke that door, and there was a mirror. And I went through that mirror, because it wasn't a mirror. And in that room was the most beautiful thing you'd ever seen. A man with 2 arms. And I said, oh. Okay. I'll play. And then after that, we sat down. He poured us a cup of tea. It was green tea. Sorry, that was the weather. Alright. So after we drank our green teas, I said, man, you don't have 7 arms? Well, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but you only have 2 arms. These other 4 arms, I'm hallucinating these. So Lucy said, maybe he's hiding the other 4 arms. It's possible. So I pulled out my shovel and started digging. Little did I know I was digging my own grave. Table collapsed. Lucy flies forward, falls right into the grave. All of a sudden, the man has 7 arms, grabs her, runs off into the dark. I say, That was the last anybody ever saw of her. And after I climbed out of that hole, with her $5 that she didn't use, because she slipped past that admission booth. She knew the way. She climbed that thing. She climbed it. Trash gave her a boost. And I left the carnival and joined the circus. And then after that, I got off that train and said, I'm done. I am out. You guys don't pay me. So I'm going to go tell ghost stories. So then I went to a society of people that told stories called the Sunset Society in a town called Gooflumps. And I sat around the fire and they said, this is your initiation. I said, I've got a story. They said, tell it. I said, this story is called The Pool. So, you got a guy, and he wants to open this pool. And everyone's standing around him, and they're saying, you can't open that pool. You just can't do it. We don't believe in you. You're a loser. And he said, I'll prove these guys wrong. If this is the last thing I do, buddy, I'm going to prove you wrong. I tell you right now. And even I believed it. I was sitting off in the corner on a lawn chair, smoking a cigarillo. And I said, wait a second. I don't smoke. So I threw that in the pool. And he said, hey man, it's only going to make it harder. It's only going to make it more difficult on me. And I said, so-and-so. And he said, what? And I said, let's get this pool open, man. And so we got a plan together. All right. We said, we got a pool. We got a giant square box here. We need to fill it with water. First off, we need to bring people in. We need to clean the bottom because there's a whole lot of crap there. There's seaweed growing off the ceiling. There's ropes hanging down. There's cobwebs in his ears. And I said, look, man, I'm creeped out. But we got to do this because they said you were a loser. And I can't stand for that because I got to do what's right. And make you the man you were meant to be. But then I had to say this. I said, I'm not part of your generation, so we're going to have to do this my way. And then I took another drink. We were on a long road. We had to go down to the pool store. Talked to this guy. A fishing net fell on my face. Luckily, that kid that was opening that pool, his name was Lucas. I said, hey, Lucas, get this net off my face. I can't see anything. And the guy said, don't take that net off his face. Lucas said, well, if I don't take the net off his face, we can't get this pool started. And so he said, huh? And he turned out to be a ghost with 5 arms and a tentacle growing out of his nose. And that's when and then took that. And when we arrived with the chlorine, I said, is this going to be enough chlorine? And he said, Lucas said, and I swear he said this. This is exactly what he said. It's going to burn our eyes. And I said, take a chill pill. Nobody's eyes are getting burnt on my account. I said, we need them. It's the only way we're going to see the truth. I didn't want to go to college that year, so I decided, well, I'll get some extra credit. So, I'll stay behind here. Well, we were there late at night because for some reason prioritizing was important. So, I said, okay, it's dark. We're at this pool. Nobody's locked the school. I'm a fool. So I opened the door. I wanted more. I got curious. We sat there, pulled out the Ouija board, lit a candle. I said, where'd you get that candle? He said, I got it from that guy with a tentacle on his nose. I said, oh. At this point, I was a little confused because I hadn't really pegged that guy a squid nose. So when we conjured up, nothing came out. Then that pool we had just filled with that water and those lights we had just turned on, he dumped the chlorine in, but he didn't. And I'm glad he didn't, because what was swimming around in that pool, the only way we were going to stop it was using that chlorine. And that's what we did. We didn't know what it was at first. It was a ripple. Maybe even a... So, lo and behold, we see this force of nature just waving toward... It's like on a surfboard, waving towards us. It's waving at us. We can't see it, but we know. We feel its intentions. I'm like, I see you. I see right through you, Mr. Ghost. It's like, you're not the first paranormal encounter I've had. And he said, huh? And I pulled that surfboard right off from underneath him, and that's when he fell right fed first into the pool, and I said, you're done. You're done, buddy. And we poured that whole batch of chlorine in there, and it burned him up like acid. Because anybody who knows anything about pool ghosts, they don't like chlorine. Zap, zap, zap. So, I said, now we got the pool open, so what do we do now? Likely got ourselves a predicament here. Something beyond words. Something I can't describe. It's not like the hairs you pull out of your nose. It goes beyond that. It goes beyond this world. It goes beyond what this is. I said, get your Ouija board. We got another story. So we went back to the Sunset Society, and I said, how'd you guys like my story? They said, man, you weren't supposed to film it, you were supposed to tell it. And I'm like, you guys are really gonna hate on me for this. And that's when I fell face first into the fire. Luckily, it was fake. So, I was lucky. And that's when I became so, which brings me to my third story. Because I already told you about the carnival, circus, told you about the pool that me and Lucas tried to open. But now I'm going to tell you about my trip to China. I said, man, I believe in dragons. But I'm not looking for a dragon. I'm looking for a ghost. A ghost dragon. And so, basically, what I did was I hopped that train. I didn't speak Chinese, so I said, Bitai bao bing bong konnichiwa. And I made my way. And I paid in pounds. And, I didn't understand what was going on. All I had was a canteen of what I believed to be some kind of herbal tea that I got from some man on a bus, and a few croissant rolls from some French guy. He was on vacay. So I went with my croissants and my tea, and I said, this should be good. I went up to the shrine, the dynasty, and I said, Grand Master, tell me, where can I find the legendary ghost dragon? He said, boy, I'm going to smack you. I was already gone. I had an out-of-body experience. He hit me so hard, my spirit flew out of my body. And it was at this point where I said, this is my chance. I am in the spiritual world. I am one with the dynasty. This is my opportunity. If I'm going to find that ghost dragon, it's going to be now. Here and now, while I'm in this spiritual form. And I ascended. I went up and away in that house with those balloons. I looked out the window. Hey, Mr. Dragon, you out there? No response. It was quiet. I was all alone. There was no electricity. All I could think about was Benjamin Franklin in Sleepy Hollow. And that movie Clueless. And that bus driver. Until I ran into that. He said, boy, you looking for me? I said, yes, Mr. Dragon. Are you a ghost? He said, yes. I'm not only a ghost, but I'm a dragon. I'm a ghost dragon. And I said, I knew the legends were true. Please, tell me your origin story. And he said, well, I had this idea one day that I was going to look for a human. And I knew I had to find this human. And I knew he'd be in a house that was floating in the sky. And that house would only be airborne via helium, meaning balloons. So, and he said, they're all red, right? I said, yeah, we all float down here. And he said, I knew it, man, this is why a dragon can't get no moo shoe for a horse shoe. And I said, come on, man, let's go ride that horse. And we did. Me and that dragon were on horseback. I lost him. His horse broke his leg. And we had to put it down. And he rode out there on that ghost horse. And I said, okay, man. If that's what you want to do, then go right ahead. But I'm going to go to that cabin. Just beyond that lake. Because I heard rumors of a small village. There's this man. And he wears all white. And he leads this village of people. So, it was at this point where I was like, well, I could do with the fourth story. I need another experience. Come on. And so, I creeped into this village. It was all women in this village, and then one man. I was like, this can't be right. So, I didn't walk up to him because I didn't want a bunch of women to beat me up. So, I hid behind that elm tree. And I watched. And he's like, all right, gather around, my children. But they weren't children. They were in their 20s. And he said, all right, all ye women in your 20s, I have the lamb, and you must pet it, for holiness is upon you, if you do. And they said, pet, 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 pet. I feel the spirit. And I was like, man, I gotta get in on this. He's really working the crowd here. He said, if you believe in goats, then you must become one. And I jumped out and I scared him and I said, boo. And he said, ah. And I said, I'm just kidding, man. Listen, I hear you're a divine leader. I said, what do you got going on here, and can I join? He said, well, it looks like you're just a man passing through looking for a story. He said, if you let me have your horse, then I'll let you join my community. And I said, okay. We ate the horse that night. In our dreams. It was all a shared dream. It was part of a spiritual ritual. And he said, well, one of us. And he said, just don't go into the woods. And I said, why not? I'm a paranormal investigator. Can't you understand? And he said, my son, don't go into the woods. There is a beast with the horns of a caribou. And I took another drink of soda. And I lost the feelings in my fingers and my hands, and I said, I'm going out there. We got a rival tribe, and I'm going out there. If the Caribou Man's out there, I'll find him. I'll bring him back, and I'll be the hero. And then I'll take over the throne, and I'll send you down that river. And he said, well, if you think you've got the guts, then spill. So I took some gin, I took some absinthe, strapped it around my belt, and I went in, taking drinks of both as I progressed, mentally. So, for these achievements, I knew that I was going to have to give the Caribou Man one thing, a fifth story, a fifth and final story, the greatest story of all time. So, I'm in the woods, and I run into these British people, and they're like, mate, what are you doing in these woods? The Caribou Man lurks about. He said, the Caribou Man takes you by the hand. I said, shh, what am I getting myself into? He said, alright, here, man, take this tea. I'm like, nope, I won't mix with the absinthe. He's alright. We got a couple Bloody Marys. Come on in. I'm like, don't we have to play that with a mirror? He said, mirror, mirror on the wall. Shut up. And I said, okay. If you're going to play it like that, I'm going to smack you in the face. But I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Because I fell through that mirror, and you know what was on the other side? That 7-armed man. But he only had 6 arms this time because he ripped one off his body. And he grew these giant caribou horns, and he said, son, you met me before. The carnival circus. And he said, welcome. These are my woods. And I said, I knew you weren't what you seemed. He said, yeah, I knew that dragon too. Who do you think put him up to it? Who do you think broke his horse's leg? Made him a ghost. He said, so all this is because of you. He's like, yeah, man. You needed a 5th story. I'm your 5th story. When we say the best word. Last. He said, you ready, my son, for the final story? I said, take me there, Papa. And I sat on his lap. And he said, well, I'm not Santa, but I'll be your dad. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't say that. But he did have a story for me. And this 5th and final story was a doozy. He said, let's go back to the 70s. I said, a nudist colony? No. I said the 90s. He's like, Back to the Future Part 3. Alright. Remember when they went back to the Wild West and Doc Brown did this and did that? And I'm like, stop. And I threw absinthe in his eyeballs. And he's like, hey man, I'm blind, but you know what? I have to give you props. You've got balls. And I've seen your YouTube videos, and I've seen those scary movies you watch. And that commentary, those riff tracks, I'm a fan. I'm subscribed. And I said, thanks. I appreciate that. I can't see very well either. And I said, hey, let's be friends. And the Caribbean man said, you're alright. You're alright. Everything's going to be fine. So I said, why not? Because we can make a YouTube video together. Well, if we're going to do this, we're partners, right? I knew he was going to cut me off at 50-50. So I said 720, and he said 330. That was it. I was done. I said, no more contracts. I'm out. Goodbye, Hollywood. And then I made a song about it. Went back to the campfire that night, to the Sunset Society, and I said, man, what'd you guys think of my story? They said, your story was 5 stories in one. That's the best story we've ever heard. You must be the king of telling ghost stories. And I said, I'm not the king of telling ghost stories, because I'm the king of telling ghost stories. I'm the king of telling ghost stories because I'm a ghost. They said, you're a ghost? I said, oh God, what do we do? I said, I'm going to haunt all of you in your nightmares. So they all went home that night. And that's what I did. I haunted them in their nightmares. And when they took that hayride, I was in the field. And I came at them from all 4 directions. Spun my webs around them, drug them into the woods. And the last thing anybody ever saw was 2 red eyes. And that was the last anybody ever seen of him. The screams were the last thing they ever heard of him. And then I began my walk, my descent into darkness. As my boots thudded against the pavement in the misty night, I approached 1984 and I said, this is a good start. This place will work for what I have planned. This town, it has promise. So I threw on my jean jacket and I said, I'm going to start with this particular street right here and terrorize every last person on it. And then after the fear has tormented all of them upon this street, for all 31 days of October, I shall release them on Halloween. And after I released them, they went and they told the rest of the town the story of the man in the dark. Said, watch out for him. Rumor is it, he turns into a spider and he'll drag you off into the woods. So that's what happened to those guys that took that hayride. The man in the dark was a legend. He became the town, so they changed the name to suit the man, to appease him, to pay tribute to him, But every night the man came back to the town to cause mischief and mayhem. And he stood at the top of the clock tower and looked below at the people and said, "I am your master. I am your reckoning. This is the beginning of the end, but I need all of you. No harm may befall any of you, because without any of you, there is no fear, and there is no mayhem, and there is no mischief." And slowly people started disappearing. Things started happening. Cars started blowing up. Schools started having curfews. Police station was busy. Nobody could find the man in the dark. And they say that over the weekend, he leaves that town and descends upon the residents of our world. He is not bound to that one town on the weekend. During that time, he can move freely throughout the world. And following behind him, crows as far as the eye can see, as he is spiritually allied with them. So just remember, when you're walking through the dark, to listen for those footsteps. Make sure to be looking through those trees in those alleyways for two red eyeballs searing through your soul like the Ghost Rider. Because it just may be the man in the dark, and you just may be caught in his web and drug off into those trees. No one knows what happens when they get drug off into the trees. All they know is he's out there, and he's watching, and he's everywhere. And at night he comes, and he takes what he wants, and he takes who he wants. And then he leaves come sunrise. Some say his origins are sorcery. Some say his origins are devilish. Some say he's an alien. Some say he's from another dimension. We really don't know. Some say he was written into stone to one day leak out of the pages of a book into reality and fulfill the prophecy. Just remember, at 3 a.m., when you're walking and it's cold and it's dark and there ain't no lights, you're all alone. You see a man in the distance, and he ain't nothing but shadow and two red eyes. Just may be the man in the dark. And just maybe, he's coming for you. And there you have it. There you have it. Well, I hope you all enjoyed these 5 stories, all leading up to one major story. There's a reason I told these stories. There was a reason I told the last story in particular. Those of you who know me well enough You know that back in 2015 I released a book. It's about 700 pages. It's full of short stories. Nothing like the ones I just told you. But I may be quite possibly working on a new book and a new villain. And in these short stories, this villain may or may not be lurking about the pages, ready to claim those who dare walk amongst the darkness. Just remember, bring your friend next time you're in the dark, or you just might run into the man in the dark. Step, step, step. Good night. Sleep tight. And, if you're like me, hopefully the bed bugs won't bite. But they always do. They always do. Have a spooky